Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on Tana. It's been a while, but I think today's going to be a special one because this is the video that I'm making for the actual launch of Tana. And of course, with the actual launch, I wanted to update my template, Orbital, which is like the template that you can use if you have lots of meetings, tasks, and stuff like that. Now, the majority of the template and the install video is still fully up to date. So I'll link in the description to the original install video. But I do want to go through the template again because I released a 1.2 video, a 1.2 version with lots and lots of changes of little things that I've tweaked over, I think, the last few months. And I also want to get into some of the cooler little AI features that I'm using in combination with Inbox AI, which is the macOS app that I'm using. So let's get started. And for Orbital, again, the installation video is in a different one, but I will show how to install it here. I'll just not go into a lot of detail. The best way to use Orbital, by the way, is just to start clean, to create a new workspace and start from there. Now, this is not recommended, for instance, if you're in the beginning, but if you've tinkered with Tana for a bit, then this is fine and you know what you're getting into. At this point, I have a clean workspace and I have the link that I'll also put in the description for Orbital. When you click the link, you will go to the install and I'll simply click open in Tana and add to home. Now, as you can see, Orbital is rather big. It has 37 super tags, over 100 fields, search nodes, and over 90 or 89 commands. So it will take a little bit for it to install. Not too long, but enough for me to have to talk over the installation process. There's also some stuff here about caution about using external API calls. I'll show you how it works. It's completely optional. It only calls APIs to your local machine and only for people who opt to use EventLink. That's a little application that you can use to gather calendar information. Now, calendar information is natively supported in Tana, but only if you use Google Calendar. And EventLink unlocks other kinds of calendars or multiple calendars if you're on Mac OS. I will show a slight bit on how to get into it, but not too much. So you are greeted with the installation screen of Orbital, and it's actually quite simple. There's lots of instructions, and here is that video that I'll also link to. But we'll go through it side by side. It's been a while since I also installed it, so we are going to install it into an empty workspace as a starting point, and let's go. So set up your day and week tags in the journal settings. See settings. Okay, let's go. Go to the Tana journaling settings, remove all existing fields and copy and paste the following under the journaling settings. Okay, let's go and do my own instruction. Let's go to settings and we'll make the screen a little bit bigger. Go to journaling settings. I don't think we have that yet. So let's go to today and it will create the journaling settings and we will go back and we will copy these things in. So the default journal, we don't want these daily notes, we want these daily notes. And for the rest, we just copy. We're gonna do it like this. We're gonna copy it over there. Oh, I see that this one still hasn't been fixed. Stian, if you're watching, this bug still hasn't been fixed. And what we're going to do, since these are references, we're going to move this one here with bring reference node here. I don't think it's required, but I'm a little bit autistic with this sort of thing. Okay, and then we'll go to the next step. Cool. Move the items under home to your local home node. Okay. Oh, there's a button for it. Let's do move to local home and done. Let's go back. Schema, lots of things. Move to the local schema. Let's do that. And done. Back to the install structures. Then update the inbox search query to link to your own inbox. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Let's go here, expand the search query below, click on this button, open this one, and let's do inbox. Inbox, there we go. This probably is it, I don't know. The more interesting part is you don't have an inbox standard now if you haven't used it. So if you don't see it, download the mobile app and actually send something to the inbox, and that will open up the inbox node. Let's see. There we go. If you just search for inbox, you'll get it. I'll just do this. I think if you just add something in there, you can see that it appears in the sidebar because it has been used. So simply search for inbox, and that should fix it. This, I think, has all been done. And then optional. No, let's skip over the optional stuff. And I think that's about it. Now, let's go to our day node. And we are going to have to recreate this day node. Let's delete this one, start a new one, because the orbital day node comes with a lot of extra goodies. And we're going to see how we're going to use all of these goodies. So orbital is my main sort of daily driver. And my productivity system is actually, it's quite simple. It consists out of a couple of loops. So first, every week, I click on the week and I go through. This one also hasn't been. Let's remove this one also. And let's start again. Click on this one. Yes. And then we see also the nice actual orbital week. So remember, because I went to the first day, I sort of created those two. And that's when we set the settings for week. So what happens actually, those settings that we just use, they tell Tana what to tag week with and what to tag day with. Again, if you want to have a slower introduction of how the install works, just look at the video and I go through each step, very small. So here we have week 5. We'll just open this up, and what you can see is that there's been some stuff in here. Let's also clean the old daily nodes, and we're also not going to need. Normally, you can remove the to Orbital template, but I'm not going to do that just yet, because especially for the video, there's a lot of sort of example content in there that is nice to show around. So we are here, back at the week, and the first step is to set as the current week. And what happens is a couple of things. So first, the week target was updated to week 5, and if I am correct, it should have also set a pinned node, but maybe that has broken, and I will fix it at a later point. So that is basically the first step I take in my week, and I set it as a current week. Then I have here a list of open tasks. Now, every task that you create and tag with to do or discuss or whatever will automatically show up here. And this is how I, and if you're going to use Tor Orbital, will start your week by simply going through each one. And that's part of my loop. I go through each single task in my open tasks every Monday morning at my week start. Now, remember that this, for me, never goes over maybe 100 tasks. And I rarely look at the discuss things, mostly at the to-do things. But it's a good way, because whenever I see something that I don't think that is sort of useful anymore, like who wants to pay the electricity bill, then I just check it off. And I'm rather strict with myself. If I don't remember the usefulness of the task, if I might click on it, because Tana is very cool that you can see the context of a task, and not in these specific ones because they're example content, but generally when you use Tana, you'll be capturing tasks throughout your day. And then you can see sort of like what was the reason. But still often I look at the task and think, yeah, that was sort of something I felt was important back then, but not anymore. If I do think something is important, I click on it and I press Shift Tab. And what it actually does, it says reference added to parent. Basically, it just takes it out one level up and it puts it in my week. And the benefit of that is that everything that is in my week is my sort of weekly list that I want to do. So let's water the plants, let's buy some groceries because we need to eat and clean the kitchen. And let's also discuss this budget with the UX team. So now we have a couple of tasks in the week, and I can check this off. I also have this go through upcoming meetings. If you click this little button, it will open Fantastical. If you don't use Fantastical, you can customize the button to, for instance, open Apple Calendar. If you want instruction on that, just ask on Slack, and I will give you a short hint. For now, I won't go through it because if I click this button, all of my private appointments will show up, and I don't think that's the greatest things. Then I go and look at how can I make progress towards my big goals. Now, I'll get back to this in a bit, because actually this is where Orbital 1.1, my previous version, stopped. I never really had a good answer to this, but I think I'm getting closer, and some of the additions that I made are now sort of like a better way of trying to keep a little bit of progress in these things. And then I reflect on the progress and decisions of my last week. And basically, I just click previous week. I go through my task. I go through the week, see what I did. Did I do enough of these tasks? And basically, I just, for myself, have this little view. Okay, am I doing well? Am I not doing well? For now, I'll just tick these off. And this would be the first part of my week. And then I go to the day. And the first thing you see is that in this week, everything shows that I planned to do this week. So here, I will choose to say, hey, I want to do the groceries today, and I want to clean the kitchen. Well, I have to. There's also something slightly wrong here, because this is supposed to be a view as a calendar. I'll fix that in the template. I've been dragging some stuff around, and it was a lot of work, so there's bound to be a few things. And you can see them, me fixing them on the fly. Basically, what happened here is that this one is no longer in calendar view. So you have a couple of views, but if I change it here, it will be just for today. And I want to change it for every future day. So I go to advanced, and I will go all the way down to my calendar. There we go. Click here, view as calendar, and that's it. This away before we can see all of that nasty complexity. So here we have the calendar node. And one of the things I can also do, if I want to water my plants and I want to put that on a specific date, I can just drag that in there. So I have a mix of either scheduling my tasks like this and having a specific moment in time when to do it, or just putting them in here, and then I hope to sort of like check them off throughout my day. Another big aspect up here is my inbox. So there's a lot of stuff that flows into my inbox. I have a lot of automations that add tasks there. And also some of the AI stuff that I will show later will add tasks there. And then I will go and proceed to sort of like handle them. It's nice for me because when you add stuff to the day node, for me, that works throughout the day. But if I have something that comes in at night, I don't always go back to the previous day to check what's up. And even though it will show up in this week if it's a task, I prefer doing a sort of manual processing. Now, I know this is not the Tana way. In the recent version, for instance, the inbox has been hidden by default, luckily not removed. And I understand that the goal for Tana is to do no manual processing. But for me, and that may be also because of the amount of stuff that comes in, and perhaps I just like the control, for me it's important to do this manual processing. And I think this is a good step to show you how Inbox AI works, because Inbox AI will be able to send stuff to my inbox. And in order to get Inbox AI to work, first you need to get an API token. So you go to settings, go to API tokens, and you copy the API. If you don't have one, you can create it here. And in Inbox AI, which you can get on the App Store, by the way, there's a link in Orbital if you want it. there's a couple of API keys that you need to set. If they're not set, for instance, they will show this little orange dot. I think I already set them, but in order to be safe and sorry, the demo effect is also always a little bit annoying if it doesn't work. And I think I have everything set. One of the things I don't have set is the super tag ID for my tasks. And you can quite easily get that by going to the to-do tag and doing Command K, copy the link, and then go back, and we will place this one in here. And this part is actually the super tag ID. And I think now is a good time to introduce the AI to you. So I have just copied a node ID for Tana on my clipboard. Can you remember that whenever I add something to Tana that is a task, that you can use this super tag ID?
Got it. I'll use the super tag associated with the copied node ID when adding tasks to Tana.
So that was the first step. Now the AI knows, and it will remember it forever. So this is just a step for one time. And now I can just ask whenever I want to send something to my inbox. And hopefully this works in one time. I haven't really tested this, but of course I use it every day. But I had to reconfigure it for this video to the demo setup, so you don't get to see everything in there. So let's say we need to buy groceries. What else do we need to do? Let's pick up some coffee. Hey, can you remind me to pick up coffee tonight?
Reminder to pick up coffee tomorrow has been added to Tana.
No, can you change the text? I said pick up coffee tonight.
The reminder has been updated to pick up coffee tonight.
We always see that it's slightly broken. Can you try that one more time? Just pick up coffee. Oh, actually you did it. But you can remove the to-do and today. It's not necessary.
The to-do and today tags have been removed. It's now updated to pick up coffee tonight.
Okay, so this is like the demo of how you can sort of like keep talking to the AI and sort of ask these things to be added. Of course, you can also use the voice memo app on your mobile, or you can use Inbox AI on iOS, which has a similar function. I use that a lot in the car, for instance, when I'm sparring about things, and I will ask the AI to send a summary to Tana. And you can put it into the inbox, but you can also put it somewhere else. There's a couple of sort of commands that are embedded in Orbital that make it a little bit easier to do this kind of stuff. Let me show you one. There's a little bit of setup actually required to get that one running. So if you go into Orbital, and let's see, where is that? In the usage instruction? No, it's in the home. Sorry, it's in home because we moved everything under commands. Here we have the Inbox AI specific commands. There's also event link commands. Those are for calendar imports. If you don't use them, just throw them away. They're built to be completely sort of like optional, and you don't need to use them. Why it's important? Because if you want to use these kind of things, like discuss node with AI or send node to AI, or send node ID to AI, it will need one of these things. Now, I use Arc, so I'm going to just copy this. And this is like the identifier for the browser. And as you can see, it will ask for it in a bit. So let's select the buy groceries, Command K, and then send node ID to AI. And then it will ask for the bundle ID. Simply paste that in there and close this off. Okay, let's do this. And we're going to send the node content, or actually we're going to discuss this node with AI. There we go. Did you get that node?
Yes, I received the node with the content buy groceries and the tag #todo.
Cool. Can you add some groceries, like an example list for me to get so I don't forget, underneath that node?
Here's a list of groceries you might want to add.
Yeah, just add them. I don't need to hear them.
I encountered an issue adding the groceries to your Tana node. Could you try sharing the node with me again or provide a valid workspace node ID?
Try again. There we go. Very cool. Okay, let's pause it again. So what you see here is that it added it, and I'm still working on, for instance, like this. It's annoying that it adds these little dashes. You can ask it not to do it, but as with AI, it's always a little bit finicky of what it actually does and remembers. But we can try. So what I would normally do is something like, hey, when you send stuff to Tana, you don't need to start it or prefix it with a dash if it's a list, because most of the stuff in Tana is a list. Can you remember that for me?
Got it. I'll remember that when sending items to Tana.
How about you send one more item to that node we just discussed to check whether you remembered this correctly?
Please provide the item you'd like to add, and I'll send it to the node without a dash.
Let's get coffee. There we go. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so this was sort of like a short demo of how you can use and integrate super fluently using Inbox AI and Tana. But this is actually just beginning to get started. Because what I love about Tana and what is the main reason that I use it is that I am just super prepared whenever I have meetings. So you saw me sort of prepare for my day using my weekly sort of loop. And in the beginning of each day, I will go through all of the things I selected here, and I will just drag them in. And eventually I'll also do some, and they will just fall away from this week. And you can also see that in the week, you can get a nice overview of all of the stuff you did. I rarely, by the way, get through everything I think I get through. I think I still have to learn on that one. But it's very good because I reflect as I go back and I can see, hey, I selected too much. And I'm getting better, especially looking at my week, like what is a reasonable amount? So when you actually commit to these things, that you don't feel, well, bad that you were not able to finish everything. Now, if a lot of stuff comes in, what I showed you with AI is just one of my input sources. I have a couple of things also flowing directly into the inbox. So for instance, some of my emails are automatically parsed using Inbox AI, and action items are extracted, and they will also land in the inbox. And the benefit is that once I check it off, so for instance, like say that we do it, what I usually do is just press today, and it will move everything that has been checked off to today. If I have anything in there that I haven't checked off, so for instance, if we're gonna move this one to the inbox, let's see, move this to, oh, that's not possible anymore. Let's do Command Shift K, or we're gonna just copy it and we're gonna put it in the inbox. There we go. And then of course we need to say bring it here, and now it should be in the inbox. Yes, there we are. If I don't want to finish it, and I think I will do this later, I'll just press current week. And what will happen, it will go into the current week. It won't change here because it was already there. But in the basics, that's how I go through my day. Stuff comes in here, I either do it, I plan it, I put it here for in the middle, I finish it, and I press on current week if I want to do it at a later point. And that's the most of my to-do stuff. Now, if you were listening, you would see that I had different types of to-dos. And actually, there's a couple that I actually use. If you go to Home and then here to open Schema, you can see that I have a couple of to-dos. I have to-do, I have delegated, discuss, assigned, deferred, and suggestion. Now, the majority of time I will use to-do and discuss. So to-do is something I need to do. Discuss is something I want to discuss with someone at a certain point. So this brings us to meetings. I am in a lot of meetings. And usually I use EventLink. That's my little tool to import these meetings. Or you can just use the native Google Calendar integration of Tana. It doesn't really matter whatever you use. For now, I will just manually create a meeting because it's just the easiest way to get started. And let's say the UX stand-up. There we go. UX is, by the way, usability in software. I run a software company, so bear with me with all of these terms. There's a couple of things you see. So first of all, it created the meeting right from here, and it auto-tagged it to a meeting. That's what Orbital already does for you. And you can see it adds it to today. But again, I like a little bit of structure. So what I added to Orbital is like, hey, I want these things to go into meetings. And I click there and they go and they get easily cleaned up into their little box. If you want, you can just open them here and they're there. And of course, they're here too. Now, normally I would have a ton of meetings here and they would be waiting for me as I imported all of them, or I typed them. In the beginning, I used that and that I would manually type in all of my meetings. And that's also a great way to sort of like, basically really look at the meetings that you want to have and get stuff sort of like prepared for yourself. Now we're going to zoom in. There's a lot of pop-ups that show up, the meeting agents and some suggested fields. For now, I'm just going to click those away and I'm going to focus a little bit on Orbital. So there's a couple of things that we see here. UX stand-up and we have a couple of attendees. And this is a meeting. So I have two types of meetings. I have a meeting with a group and I have a meeting with one-on-one people. So this would be a meeting with a group. And generally, when I have a meeting with a group, it would involve a certain amount or a team or something like that. So let's say we're meeting with the NADAP or with the UX team. There we go, because it was a UX stuff. Here you can see one of these other things that I'm using. So often in Tana, you would create a new team or a new attendee here. And what happens to me is that I, at some points, clean these things up, and then also the base things get lost. So this button shows up next to anything I find important enough to keep in my library. And if I click here, it will simply be moved to my library, and it will always be ready. If I didn't move that, and for instance, I would remove this meeting, the UX team would actually be removed with it if you created it here. But yeah, so that's basically it. Then I have some attendees. Let's pick some people. Let's say Peter and who else? Let's say Kevin, who's also here. You see the same button here. Again, if you've used this for a bit, don't worry about it. After a while, they all are in the library and you don't have to do it anymore. Now, as soon as I added the UX team, you also saw that here, that discussion point popped up. Because I had in my to-dos a discussion that I needed to do with the UX team, because I marked it as discuss with the UX team. And this is one of the secrets of being prepared when you have almost zero headspace because you're running from meeting to meeting. So as I am typing and taking meeting notes, or I have the agent on, but I think that's something that someone in a different video will probably show better. But let's say I'm typing or I'm having some meeting notes. So I'll show you the demonstration through another little feature of Inbox AI, and that is transcription. So Inbox AI also offers like native transcription. And let's say the meeting went on, and I think it was Peter's time to talk, and he set the agenda. Set the agenda. So this is also part of Inbox AI. It's just a simple way to transcribe. It uses local on-device transcription, and once you've installed it, it's totally free. You can also transcribe the entire meeting using Tana with the agent, but generally I have my laptop in front of me and I'll type along. What happens is during the meeting, often a to-do point will come. And at that point, I will simply say like, if we discuss the budget, and I will mark that off and it will go away. But during this, I need to give feedback back because there were some changes. So let's say that me and Peter need to sit down later on. So sit down with Peter about the budget changes for UX. And then I tag that as to do. Now, one of the cool parts, as you see this little thing here, is that, hey, it converted that one to the UX team, and this Peter wasn't converted. But we can do that quite easily by just adding and then selecting Peter. The benefit now is that if I click Peter, there's a lot of stuff coming on, but you also see all of the to-dos linked to Peter right there and then. Now, this is actually not a to-do. This is more of a discuss, because sit down with Peter, it usually means that I'm having a meeting. So it's mistagged. And in that case, I will just make that into a discuss tag, and I will remove the to-do. And what happened here is that the auto field was corrected, and a lot of stuff happened, but it converted Peter to Peter van Solingen, and it made it into a correct discuss tag. There's some interesting things happening here. Like this, let's reload this because it's been cycling a bit. There we go. And there's also the to-do tag, which we're going to remove right now. There we go. This will then show up if I have a one-on-one meeting with Peter, which I will plan later on. Now you'll see a lot of other stuff, which we will get to. I promise. One of the things I also usually have is that this UX stand-up is more generic one, but sometimes there's a little bit of a context to a meeting. So for instance, if in the UX stand-up a certain topic was discussed, for instance, artificial intelligence, I often sort of tag that here and put it in the context field. What you instantly see is that as I add this context to this meeting, all of the discussion points that have the same context or organizational goals or actions that have that same context also show up. And it's super helpful for me to be able to sort of have a meeting, some sort of topic pops up, I select the context here, and instantly all of that stuff in Tana that is linked to that context, and you can see, for instance, how it's linked here, is like, because the context is simply set to artificial intelligence, shows up wherever I feel it was needed. Now let's go into the next type of meetings. If we go back, let's schedule after the UX stand-up. We're going to sit for an hour with Peter. So let's do a one-on-one with Peter. There we go. And we're going to move that one to the meetings too. Normally, I tag this either manually or it comes from sort of Google, and then you can say, hey, if it has one-on-one in the title, then it's a one-on-one meeting. I'm going to do this manually right now, so it's a one-on-one. And then you see a couple of things. It says, hey, the title is automatic, so I don't need to type it every time. And we're going to select Peter. Now we're going to remove these. And one of the things here is that you see, hey, that to-do item or the discussion point from the previous meeting now automatically shows up here. And this is so amazing because as I go through meetings all day, I should gather these points like, hey, I should mention this to that person, or I should do this later. And by simply selecting the right person, the right team at that time, that sort of saves so much trouble because it saves a lot of headspace from me having to, oh yeah, I need to remember that. Or I used to have lists and lists and lists that where I sort of drowned in all of them. And now Tana just handles this all for me. On the one-on-one front, you also see a couple of other things. And now we'll go a little bit into the goal settings. And so you see here that Peter is part of the commercial team, and we're going to move that to the library too. These buttons show up, by the way, because they're still all example content. So in your own sort of situation, these will probably not show up as often unless you keep adding stuff here. One of the things that often happens is that I make, for instance, a development goal in a meeting with someone. Now, in this case, Peter is not the person that I manage in real life, by the way. But say that me and Peter have a sort of relationship that I am mentoring him. So during my one-on-one with Peter, I might come to a point that Peter really, really strongly needs some communication sort of like training. So let's improve. I keep typing and I shouldn't type. I think Olaf from Tana would always say that Tana's going to eat the keyboard and I keep typing. work on a personal development plan with Peter on communication. So let's tag this as a development goal, and a couple of things are going to happen. First of all, we have the objective owner, which we're going to set to Peter. And when we set that, it will show up as his development goal. And every time I have a meeting with him, then I will be sort of reminded that we have sort of like agreed that this is something that he wants to improve. But let's see, let's do this. Improve communication. Because of course we already know this is about Peter. So it doesn't really need that much extra context. This again comes back in other meetings. So for instance, there's another last type of meeting. Let's say that I have a very long meeting at the end of the day with Peter again, and it's a development meeting. We're going to move that one to the meetings here, and I'm going to tag this, and it's what we at work call a 3P meeting. And I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to do the 3P meeting with Peter. Now again, his development goals now show up here, but what you also see is that there's this nice template of how to have a coaching meeting with someone. And of course you can customize this to the questions that you enjoy most, or just learn from how I did this, because there's no real magic around here. This is all Tana basic functionality that I'm just using in different pieces and different ways. The main thing here is that it saves so much prep time. Like I created this format at my office, and I had added some extra stuff to here. And you can either take this format, adjust it. If you want to adjust it, you go to the configure tag of 3P. You don't go into the template, what you might think that is there. But if you put stuff in here, you cannot really easily edit it here. So if you go down to the AI and commands, here you can see a command called insert 3P template. And let's click this one off. Here, edit configuration, and here you can actually edit that template to your heart's desire if you want it. Or you can just copy this style and just create your own sort of templates for meetings and make different meeting types, etc., etc., etc. The cool part here is that this development goal, I also see a little bit of a problem. I will fix that. Also, these should have a little checkbox. Let's see, content template, show checkbox. There we go. Because development goals can be sort of met. And once you've met them and together you've agreed that you met them, simply they will flow away. Now again, you can see that Orbital is just a starting point. I was fixing some minor things that I forgot while changing stuff around, but I also urge you to make this your own. My third loop, so at the start of week, I go through my tasks. Every day, I actually go through all of my tasks for that week. And every so often, and that's less frequent now than in the beginning, but when you're just using Tana, I would really recommend you do this at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. And you go through your own system and you see what works and what doesn't. Don't be afraid to try stuff, but be even less afraid to throw away the stuff that doesn't work for you. I think the advantage of Orbital is that you get sort of like this fixed thing that works for me, but it might not work for you. And in that case, just remove the little parts and make it your own. And if you need help, the Tana Slack is amazing. You can just ask these questions, and there's so many people who are willing to help with all kinds of stuff. You would be amazed. So yeah, don't hesitate to come there. That brings us to the end of sort of meetings. We do have one more thing that we have here, and those are organizational goals and actions. And this is actually the most recent addition that I have done. And the benefit of this one was, like, when I started the video, I said, like, hey, I go through my week and there's a lot of stuff that I struggle with. Like, for instance, how to make progress towards my big goals. As you might have guessed, I'm in a lot of meetings every day. the way this looks like is actually not an exaggeration, but usually it's expanded until the end of the day. Unfortunately, not with one meeting with Peter, because that would be doable, but with lots of little fragmented meetings. And especially if I also have bigger goals, this is something that I sometimes struggle with. So when I sort of plan a little bit of a moment for myself, so sometimes I would take a little bit of time to prepare for the upcoming time, I try to do some goal setting. And in order to just do something, I use this scratch pad. So this is stuff that sort of like it stays on the day, and next day it's fine that it's gone. I can scroll back to it, but goal setting, at least for me, usually sort of takes a couple of days to bubble. And there's many sort of like structures for this. Yeah, you could put something like a specific goal setting note and pin it into your notes here. You can put it into home. But for me, this is what I use the scratch pad for. Basically stuff that needs to survive multiple days. So I removed this little sort of like information thing, and this thing will always be stable. So next day I will still have this. So let's start with some goal setting. So I'm responsible for my organization. I work for Native Healthcare, and we're a software company. And as you can imagine, that one of the biggest things that is happening right now is AI. And I want to run you through one of the goals that I set for myself, and for instance, how you can use this sort of structure, and hopefully it will also be useful for you. I added it as an organizational goal example in Orbital, just to show, hey, how does this do? So I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to put it in my scratch pad. And here you can see this is an organizational goal. So we showed you the development goals, which are personal. We also have organizational goals, and they can be personal because usually they have an owner. In this case, I am the owner. Let's move me to the library. I also added a context, and that's why you saw this one pop up when we selected the artificial intelligence context in a meeting. Because often, if I talk about artificial intelligence, oh my god, it's a difficult word, then it would be useful that everything connected to that concept just pops up. And if I don't want it, I just remove the tag and it's back to the clean self. Now, I, for now, am the one responsible at my company to increase AI adoption. So that means that I am the actual owner because I'm responsible. But the team is actually sort of like made up in itself, the bigger organization. And you see the structure often. A person might be responsible because they're the lead. But it's actually a goal for the team or for the organization. So that's how I modeled this. And this is all part of Orbital. So for you, you can just follow this. I also have this little helper because you're going to see this objective owner. You saw that in the personal goal also. Is going to return at some points. And it's a little bit complicated, but it's worth it. So I try to explain it here. So in this case, this is an objective. So for objectives, the lead person or team. So in this case, I did it right, and it's me. And then we have some key results. I spent years sort of struggling against the concept of KPIs. And I've realized that I've come around to it. Not specifically the concept of KPIs. I think KPIs are fine if you set them yourself. And if you let teams set them themselves. Of course, they're easy to game if you want them to. But since this is my own goal, I have absolutely no reason to game these numbers. And in this case, the first step after setting an objective is to say, hey, what kind of key results would show that I actually am near success, that I'm doing well? And for instance here, AI adoption says like, hey, the amount of ChatGPT messages in my company should reach around 100,000 per week. And if you go into that, you can see that's part of a metric, the amount of messages, and an ambition, 100,000 messages per week. And again, here you see the objective owner. This is set automatically when you add these things. I would recommend just not touching them. And they are important, as I will show you later on. because it's like a cascading structure that makes it super easy that, especially if you have multiple teams or multiple objectives, it will all sort of magically appear in Tana. If you are just on your own, then these don't matter anyway, because you will just have a very simple search of one list. But if you're a manager and you have many teams, these can be a lifesaver. Underneath the metric and the ambition, there's a couple of actions that I can do to actually influence my amount of messages here. Of course, I can start sending a lot of ChatGPT messages in my company, but that would be gaming the system. And I don't think I can reach 100,000 a week. So what I chose to do is, for instance, to organize informational walk-in sessions. And I want to do 2 per month. And these are sort of like not directly sort of impact the amount of ChatGPT messages. But if I make people enthusiastic, then they will start using it more. And then this number will go up. And if this number will come up, then I will have some sort of idea that AI adoption at NADAP is actually improving. Now, there's many things I can do. I could also say I want to start posting, start sharing more about AI on Slack. And this, as I'm still learning here, of course, is like more. It's very difficult for me to hold myself accountable, like more than what. So when I tag it, it instantly says, hey, you have to add an ambition. This is not enough. So let's not just start, share about AI on Slack, and let's do that once a week. Now, as you can see here, a lot of the stuff auto fills in. So in this case, the objective owner, it just flows automatically again. Don't touch it. I will show you how it works later on. If you clear it, just look at this little text here and fix it for that one. So in this case, this is an action. For an action, it is the key result, so the one on top of it. Now, the associated team is NADAP, and this just flows all the way up from here. But you can change it, because sometimes a different team might need to take an action. So, for instance, if someone else is going to do this in a different team, then I might change that team. That's just fine. And this is an action, again, this is for me, because I'm going to do these things. I think I also selected this one as my action. Now, what is cool is that if I go to my own page, if I go to myself, you also see a couple of things. Here I see all of the actions that I committed to doing across all of my organizational goals. And this is something that I plan to sort of go through every week at the start of the week. Hey, do I need to do these things right now? Do I need to plan them? Have I done them? And if they're not working, I can sort of reiterate on them. And this is my first attempt to actually try and get meaningful progress towards these bigger goals. Because so far, I've left it usually at, I want to increase AI adoption. I have these ideas. And then sometimes it magically comes to be, and sometimes it does not. And this is sort of my way of saying, like, hey, I think if you sort of break it down into these things and use key results as some sort of way to check whether you're making progress, then you can slowly move towards success. Here you see also a couple of other things. For instance, I am in NADAP, and my objective owner is NADAP. And this also says here for people, it's their parent team. And now we get to why this one is important. Because when I click on NADAP, you also see all of the organizational goals of NADAP, and they all flow down. So if you have multiple teams and multiple owners, so for instance, if we're going to have, let's see, the UX team, let's go and create a goal for UX. And let's do that in the UX stand-up. There we also created an organizational goal to, I think actually we have one. Let's see, what was it? User satisfaction? Not really. I thought it was in there. There we go. There is a goal. So let's reference that in here. Increase the usability of the product. And we see that the associated team is the UX team. And if we click on the UX team, and we see that Kevin is the owner, if we click on Kevin, and we see that Kevin is part of Native Healthcare, and Native Healthcare is run by me, and I am part of this one. So here we can see that the total level of owners, and this should actually show the UX stuff. There's still some kinks to work out. So it's well thought out, but not completely correct. So I hope that sort of this structure helps you also plan this out. Now, Orbital is not perfect, and there's so much more you can do, and there's also quite a lot already in there. So you don't have to use it as one big system, and sort of, you can also just get the template and just pick through it. Get the things that you like and take them out, see how I did it, and copy them over to your own system. Pick and choose for yourself. There's a couple of other things that I want to show you that I really like. So one of the things in the morning that I do is journal. And I love journaling with AI, especially if you can see like what we sort of like saw in the beginning of it. So let's have a happy morning. Generally I type. I would not use sort of like transcription. Because for me, writing or typing, that is the key. And I've noticed that though talking works, I prefer to do it in 2 different stages. So for journaling, what I normally do, I would type, and I will just do it now with voice transcription because it's faster. This morning was great. The sun was shining, and in the car drive over, I had a thought, hey, how do we actually get AI adoption for my company up to the point where I need to be? I'm so motivated to get to that point. Now, what I do is after I have sort of like brain dumped everything into sort of Tana, what you do remember is that we have this little command, discuss with AI. Hey, I just sent you my journal note and I really want to spar. Can you give me some journaling prompt?
1. Reflect on a moment today that brought you joy.
Oh, how about you just add that to that journal entry?
I've added the journaling prompts to your Tana note.
Do you mind if we go through them one by one? So I want to reflect on a moment today that brought me joy. And I think the first thing I got to mind is that, well, the sun was shining and I live in the Netherlands, so that's a rare thing. So I think that's about it.
Sounds like a wonderful moment. The sunshine can definitely bring joy, especially when it's rare. What did you do to enjoy the sunshine today?
Oh, I was just purring like a cat. It was like I was lying in the window. It was amazing. And by the way, when I'm talking to you, can you sort of like add these to Tana under the correct note IDs?
Sure, I can do that. I'll add your reflections about the... I've added your reflections to the Tana note. Let's move on to the next prompt whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's go on. Go for it. Number 2.
Reflect on any challenges you faced today. How did you overcome them?
It's going to be difficult. My day hasn't started yet. But if you look at my screen, there you can see some meetings. And perhaps you can see which ones might be the more challenging ones.
I see you have a 1-on-1 and a 3P meeting with Peter van Solingen. These could potentially be challenging. Do you anticipate any particular challenges in these meetings?
No, Peter is lovely. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to actually do it. Perhaps you can suggest a couple of sort of like questions. Wait, let me go into the note and share that one with you. Let's see this one. Yeah, did you get it?
Yes, I got the details of your 3P meeting with Peter van Solingen. Here are a few suggestions. 1. Intro. Ask if there's anything specific Peter wants to cover. 2. Performance. Discuss recent achievements and
Yeah, you're
areas.
just summing up everything I already prepared. That's unfair. How about you act like an expert in having these personal development meetings and help me really improve this setup?
Absolutely. Let's take it up a notch. 1. Intro. Encourage Peter to share his expectations and any personal goals for the meeting. 2. Performance. Focus on both achievements and learning moments. Ask open-ended questions to encourage self-reflection. 3.
Could you put a summary of everything that you just said into my inbox in Tana? It's a little bit long to listen to. Oh no, you sent it to the wrong note. I meant to the inbox.
I'll correct that and send the summary to your inbox. It seems I couldn't send it to the inbox. Could you please share the inbox node ID with me?
Oh, it's actually very simple. It's just inbox in all caps.
I've sent the summary to your X in Tana.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
So here you can see that you can really mix typing and cooperation with AI in a fluid nature. And I really like where this is all going, especially in the morning when I get to the office. I get there rather early. I like to start my day before everybody else is there, which also makes it slightly less awkward to talk to people. Not to people, to the AI in front of your machine. And I also recently, it's not fully live yet, but there's going to be an iOS app for Inbox AI. Basically allows you to do all of the things that I just showed you, all the way on your mobile. And the benefit there is that for me, I do a long commute. Well, long. It's about 20 minutes, and I would love to have this sparring session in the car. And the cool part is that all of that can be automatically summarized and sent into Tana in the same way, no matter where I am. So this is, I would say, a brief, but we're 1 hour in, overview of how I use Tana. I actually use Tana for a lot more. I think in the beginning I wanted to share a template to say like, okay, everything how I use Tana, and I don't think that is feasible anymore. I really love the way where we're going, and especially with the whole voice integration. I hope that this was useful to you, and if you want any more advice or things that you think like, hey, this is something, how do you do this? Just ask me on Slack. And maybe either I will send you a message there, or I will bring out another video. So that's about it. And I want to end it here with massive congratulations to the Tana team for actually launching. As I already said on Slack, it's hard for me to even believe that Tana was still in beta. I've been using it as such an important part of my daily work routine. And sort of like, now that it's finally live and everybody can start using it, I can't wait for everything that is coming. Thank you for sticking around if you watched the entire thing, and I hope it was useful. And talk to you later.